Hello, my name is Grax Bishop, and this is my end of 2020 review. Now, at the beginning of the year 2020, I set myself a series of goals to be completed by the end of the year 2020. And much like I did in the previous year, I sit down, I review the goals I set myself, and I see if I achieve them or not. And with each success, I give myself a tick. Thusly, I am able to come up with a grade of how well my year went and how well my goals were completed. Now, in the previous year, I presented this information to you in the form of a flip chart paper, and it was poorly handwritten text. But I figured, you know what? Things have moved on. I've got myself a green screen. Why don't I present it in a more professional manner, such as this, where I am actually inside the PowerPoint presentation. With that being said, why don't we go ahead and review my goals? Lose weight and gain big muscles. At the beginning of the year, I had this grand plan and this grand idea about how I was going to achieve this goal. I had this plan in terms of what I was going to eat. I had this plan in terms of what exercises I was going to do, and I was focused on these ideas, these plans, and I was going to execute them with then COVID-19 happened. And that is why I failed this challenge. Well, actually, the reality is using the pandemic as an excuse is pretty poor. Whilst yes, it is true that the pandemic of COVID-19 did occur throughout the entire world. And yes, it is true that Viv and I did spend 95% of our lives at home, not going out during this pandemic time. The reality is, that's not really an excuse. I still could have eaten properly. I still could have done some form of exercise. And whilst I did try and do some kind of yoga exercises and kind of exercising aerobics for stuff I saw on YouTube, it wasn't enough. I didn't move nearly as much as I would do being at home, and I ate and ate and ate and ate and ate, which all came to a head around about the summertime where I got really fat. In fact, I almost got as fat. In fact, no, I got as fat as I did at my heaviest point of my life, which produced this result, this lovely picture, this lovely image right here. I'll just I'll let you drink that in and appreciate my fat form. These are the reasons why I didn't gain any big muscles. Losing weight became a bit of an interesting journey. At that point in the summer where I became my fattest, I figured that I'd take a look at my diet and take a look at my routine. And I figured that I wasn't actually moving around because I was working from home, I was staying at home. So why don't I just eat less? So I decided to give a try of having a breakfast, having a lunch, quite a substantial lunch, which some might say ended up looking like a dinner, but then skipping dinner or having something very light, like say a small tin of mackerel. And you know what? It actually worked. Once I changed my eating habits, I saw that my weight was going back down to the point where I started at the beginning of the year. And then I was starting to lose more weight. And as you can see by this chart, whilst I'm not exactly the lightest of the lightest I would like it to be, I did technically lose weight. I technically now weigh less than I did at the beginning of the year. And when I moved into Bicester, I was able to move around more in the house because it's a bigger space with an upstairs and a downstairs. So that helped with me moving around more and losing a bit more weight. So with all that being said, I'm going to give myself half a point, 0.5 out of 1. For this goal. Launch a CreepyPasta / Storytime channel and produce a year's worth of content. This goal was for me to create a new YouTube channel for the purpose of being a storyteller or telling creepypastas, telling creepypastas basically, and for me to be able to produce enough content for a year, for a year's worth of content, releasing twice a week, which is 104 videos. At the beginning of the year, I started to film as many videos as I could. I mean, it even got to the point where I was placing a bet with my fiancée Viv, saying that I could produce 52 videos by the time it got to my birthday at the end of June. and I lost that bet. Regardless, I still went ahead with the plan. I launched my YouTube channel, Storytime with Grax, in mid-July 2020, and from there, my plan slightly changed, where I was releasing one video a week rather than two. And the reason why I changed it from 2 videos a week to 1 video a week was because I wanted to give myself time to edit, post, and promote these videos on a regular weekly schedule. And with that being said, I'm giving myself a 0.5 out of 1 for this goal. I did launch the channel, but I didn't produce 104 videos in the year. Learn enough Mandarin to have a very simple conversation. Really, how hard could it be to learn one of the hardest languages in the world at the tender age of 38? I started at the beginning of the year learning some basic Mandarin, and I had Viv be my teacher. Every week we would have lessons, and we would slowly build up my vocabulary and slowly build up my understanding of how the language works. However, towards the end of the year, it became more and more difficult to maintain this weekly routine, mainly because of other things which were happening in the year which took priority, and partly because I wasn't a very good student, which annoyed Viv. My big problem was the fact that I was finding it very, very difficult to remember the lessons and the ideas that I was taught the week before. And especially towards the end of the year when we were in the process of moving homes, and the buying process took essentially 1 month longer than expected, and it was much more stressful than it should ever have been. It got to the point where I just kind of dropped having lessons. I mean, I'd say a few words here and there, but the lesson had stopped around about September, October time. With that being said, here's a video that shows you all how good my Mandarin got.
你叫什么名字？
我叫 Grax Bishop.
你多大了？
38.
你是哪里人？
我是Bista.
What nationality？ 你是哪国人？
我是英国人。
你是英国人。你喜欢读什么书？
什么？
你喜欢唱歌吗？
我喜欢，我不知道。
你有几口人？你家有几口人？
我家，这个我家。
几口人？这是什么？
就是百度。
这是什么？
淘宝。
这是什么？
量，这是量。
这是脸，这不是量。我教了你1年了，什么都不会，每天就知道吃。我不想再教你中文了。
Yeah, that's yeah, I'm counting out as a 0. I didn't succeed in this challenge. 0 out of 1 for this particular goal. So, what's the score so far? Well, if you add up all the scores together, we end up with a grand total of 1. 1 out of 3, which is approximately 33%, which in terms of grades is about an E. Which doesn't look particularly good, does it? However, just like last year in 2019, I decided to add on some extracurricular points to try and boost up those numbers. The general idea of this is that for each extracurricular activity, I would add an extra goal for the year, and then I would rate whether I succeeded in it or not. The overall objective of this is to see if my score can be improved. In the year 2020, my bonus extracurricular activities are producing Grax News, where myself, Andy Harland, and Michael Bell produced a nearly daily video series where we presented the news to you in a light-hearted fashion. And believe me, when the start of the pandemic occurred and everybody was in lockdown, it was very much needed indeed. Also, at the beginning of the year 2020, myself, Andy Harland, and Michael Bell, we went on to the Southampton Superpod podcast charity event where we performed the RG podcast live, and we did it in front of a live audience. And that was in aid of sports relief, raising money for lots of different charities in the UK, which is a very good cause. In August 2020, I took perhaps one of the biggest steps of my life, and I proposed to Viv. And it was a wonderful, special, magical, sweet moment that made people cry for the right reasons. And I'm super happy that this happened, and I'm really looking forward to spending the rest of my life with the woman that I love. And the plan currently is to get married next year in 2021, but it depends what happens with COVID. But I'm really looking forward to spending the rest of my life with this amazing woman. Speaking of Viv and me, we also took the opportunity to move to a different home. We no longer live in Oxford, we live in Bicester, and it was a good, nice move for the both of us where we can start a new chapter in our lives. Last and by no means least, my YouTube channel, Grax Bishop, has reached 1,000 subscribers. In fact, it's past 1,000 subscribers at this point of this recording. After 13 years of doing some kind of schedule, I've reached this milestone. And I have you to thank for that. Thank you so much for helping me reach this goal. What this means for the rest of the channel, who knows? The sky is the limit. So with all those goals being listed out, we add them to the existing goals, which increases the total number of goals for 2020 from 5 to 8. And if you add all those points to the actual score, I end up with a score of 6 out of 8, which is about 75%, which is about an A. So in one sweeping action, I managed to change my year from a failure to a success. And it's all about how you look at it, really. Yeah. But no, seriously, just because I didn't complete all my originally set goals at the beginning of the year doesn't mean that the year was a failure. And because of these nice things that happened, these really special things that happened to me in the year, I could look at those things, and I should look at these things as being a good year. It's worth looking at these positive things and to try and get some goodness in the year when the greatest fly in the ointment being COVID-19 and everybody's lives being affected by this pandemic for various reasons. And it's really good to try and look at the good things in your life and to remind yourself that these good things occurred. 2021 goals. Now that the year has come to an end and the new year is in our sights, what goals will I set myself? What challenges will I set myself to become a better Grax Bishop? Actually, I want to try something different. At the beginning of 2020, I happened to watch a video produced by the YouTuber CGP Grey, a YouTuber that makes videos of general interests, facts, and general videos that provoke thinking and interest. One of the videos he talked about was the idea of resolutions, and I'll link the video either here or in the description down below. But in this video, he talks about the idea of themes. The idea that CGP Grey was trying to promote in this video was the idea of using themes for the year. And what I mean by that is rather than having a resolution or one or more resolutions in a year, which have potentially rigid targets of dates and numbers and all this kind of stuff, which is rigid, inflexible, and makes it difficult to achieve and makes you more likely to fail, why not have a general theme, a general idea, a general premise of the year, which allows for flexibility here and there. And as so long as you're moving towards this goal, no matter what you do in the year, it's a good thing. It's a thing of self-improvement. Like, for example, if you wanted to have a year of reading as a theme, you would make incremental changes, little changes in your day-to-day life where you can do something about it. Like, for example, in a queue, rather than reading Facebook on your phone, you would read a book on your phone. That little behavioral change points you in the right direction and projects you in the right direction in a gentle and achievable way. When you make these little adjustments throughout the year towards this theme, you can look back at the year and see positive change in your life rather than potentially failing a resolution towards the end of the year or even towards the beginning of the year and have a negative sense of oneself, feeling like a failure.
The theme can change because so will you. Having a theme, you will notice paths you didn't before. This gets you to think about your thinking, and thinking about your thinking changes your thinking, which changes who you are. So a broad theme allows its meaning to adapt with you, without the guilt of having failed to meet the goals of a past you who doesn't exist anymore.
When I listened to this video last year, I bookmarked it because I wanted to listen to it again at the end of 2020 to remind myself of this idea. And whether I succeeded or failed in 2020, I wanted to try this out for 2021. After some thinking, I've decided upon my theme for 2021, the theme of development. So what does it exactly mean to have development as a theme? Well, that's the beauty of it. It could mean absolutely anything, but I believe it is a positive theme. So that could mean anything. It could mean I could develop my body, I could develop my mind, I could develop my relationships with people, I could develop my videos and make them the best that they've ever been. It is an open theme for improving myself, and I think the idea kind of resonates with me. Partly because it means I could just take the stuff I tried to do in the previous year and implement it to this year. I mean, that's a kind of a cop-out idea, but I like it. Yeah, I'm going to stick with it. So, 2021 will be the Grax Bishop year of development. And I invite you all to, if not come up with a resolution for 2021, if not to come up with some goals, then to come up with some themes. With that being said, that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching me review my year, and I hope your year was as good as mine, if not twice as better, because I want you to succeed. And I want you to be happy, and I want you to have a good year. And I know that this year was particularly tough with everyone with COVID-19, but I genuinely hope that you've had a good year. And I hope that something good happened in your lives as well. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.